We're speaking here today with one of the world's most interesting people I've ever met. Spiritual teacher, Mahatria Ra. He's an author and a guide to thousands and millions of people worldwide. Welcome to our podcast.
Happy morning.
Before we begin, one of the questions I had driving here was about your childhood. Was there any defining moment in your childhood which has led you to this path?
It was not during my childhood. I had a dream childhood. We grew up in a joint family, as it's the culture out there in India. Everything was smooth, so I didn't even know that there was something called challenging in life. My defining moments were two different moments. One, I grew up in a joint family where we don't use the word cousin in a joint family. So my father's elder brother's son was actually cousin, but considered brother in that culture. He was academically a genius. I was not so good in academics. So I was always compared with him and made to feel that I'm not good enough. But when I went beyond academics and started playing sports, when I got involved with computers, I began to taste my first success. So the first earliest learning for me from my life was, unless you find your playing field, no point in pushing yourself. Academics was not my playing field. Computers were, sports were. So I realized that the moment I found my playing field, it was not difficult for me to be a numero uno in life. That was the first defining moment. The second was much later in my life, when I was 29, when I saw a woman end her life through suicide, and she was a highly qualified person, a postgraduate, and still unable to handle the emotions of her life, she ended her life. Which made me ponder this question that, are we missing out on teaching the fundamentals in our education system? We are teaching children to be competitive, but we don't teach them to handle failures. We are pushing them to be achievers in life, but we are not helping them to identify their expression grounds. So that led me to become a teacher on life. And from 1995 to today, that's what I've been doing, helping people to first find peace with themselves and then in turn to find peace in life.
You are also a spiritual guide to many celebrities worldwide and successful people like Dr. Atul Shah in New York City, who has kindly suggested that we meet today. When it comes to high-pressure jobs and the life of celebrities, what do you think is missing in that life?
The first is to take a responsibility for a choice that you have executed, that you wanted to be in the top bracket in life. It comes with pressure. See, there are no easy ways to the top. I can either be a comfortable mediocre or I have to be a stressful leader. So you have executed a choice. So the more and more you take the responsibility to understand, see, if you want to be a local player in tennis or cricket, you're not going to face so much stress. But if you want to win the World Cup, if you want to win a Grand Slam, it's a choice that you have executed. So what happens is, the higher you go, you're not trying to be a champion, you're trying to be a champion among the champions. You're competing with the best. So it's integral. So the more and more you realize what is stress. Stress is nothing but the uncomfortable transition you go through from earlier comfort to a higher comfort that you're seeking. So this uncomfortable transition is integral to growth. In fact, I always define growth as, growth is your willingness to go from lesser comfort to a higher comfort through uncomfortable transitions. So once you start enjoying uncomfortable transitions, I use a phrase called the pleasure of pain. The more and more you start associating pleasure to that pain of uncomfortable transitions, because it's a choice you have executed to be numero uno, I think then you learn to handle those things. So it's an integral package. Life comes as an integral package. You settle for your comfort zone, then you have lesser stress, or you challenge yourself into growth zone, and it comes with integrative stress.
You mentioned mental health before with the example of the lady who took her own life, sadly. In Australia, we have a very high suicide rates, especially amongst men. And COVID has actually led to even more stress and discomfort amongst many families. What messages you would have to people who want to search for a new meaning of life after working for, let's say, many years in a particular job, and they suddenly feel something is missing?
Two magical words have gone missing in relationship. I understand. Two magical words. In fact, all of us have become, in the world of social media, judges. All of us consider ourselves experts in all aspects of life. So we are always having ready-made solutions to offer. And in this entire process, we don't listen to these two magical words in relationships as much we used to hear, I understand. Even if I share a condition I am going through right now in social media, nobody is going to respond back to me saying, I understand. Everybody has a suggestion, everybody has a comment. So what the world is going through right now is a new type of loneliness, emotional loneliness. We are surrounded by crowds and crowds of people, and yet we are all going through emotional loneliness because right now there is this feeling, who is understanding me? The need to correct, a child is crying. What the child requires right now is a warm hug from the parents, and parents who will not belittle the feelings of the child. See, when you tell a child, you are not supposed to be upset for this. Don't get hurt for small things in life. This should not be making you frustrated. The child feels, when you judge an emotion of a child, the child feels judged, not respected. So the child starts suppressing emotions, feeling that nobody will understand what I'm going through. This, when it goes into an adult phase of life, it becomes loneliness. So when a person feels, no matter what I have around me or who I have around me, nobody is going to understand me, they think about this worst alternative, which is to end their life. My first call is to people. Removing the head because you have headache is not a solution. Giving away on life because there are challenges in life is not a solution. Running away from life is not a solution. Let's face it. You're the greatest of all the creation of God. Let's face it. Once you pass through this phase in life, in fact, you become an inspirational story to tell others. In fact, the more and more we go through these transitions of emotional loneliness and triumph over the finishing line, we become a source of help to other people. In fact, there will be more and more of us to tell the world, I understand what you're going through because I've been in that space too. So the more and more we get back this language of I understand, or I'll put it this way, we are having thousands of superficial friends because of social media and not enough of friends that we can confide upon. Deep relationships have become scarce. So if we bring back empathy into relationship, I think we'll be helping each other a lot more than what we are doing right now.
That is such a beautiful and powerful message that resonates with everyone in this world. When India was going through this, I guess, technical revolution, I would say, since the early, late 1990s, early 2000s, did you see the same trend occurring there amongst the youth in India, the quest for positions and power and money at the expense of those true family and friendship relationships?
Not just then, even right now I think India is going through, because I think India is going through a identity crisis. Indians don't know whether they should be Indians, because now you can be a global citizen. Now you can live anywhere in the world, and you can become an Australian, you can become an American, you can become an European. So right now, it's like a child lost in a candy store. The amount of choices that is there in front of us, and even after they migrate, for example, you spoke about one of the most beautiful human beings I've met in life, Dr. Atul Shah. So well settled in life, but somewhere his heart beats, did I do enough for India? Because India made me who I am. Did I do enough for India? I've been interacting with a lot of who are now Australian citizens here in Sydney ever since I've come. But their heart still beats for because the elders are still left behind in India. Conversely, when I go back to India, a lot of them, when they are planning their dreams, there was a time in our life when we planned our dreams. Our dreams was always about, I need to be an engineer or a doctor or a millionaire. Right now, this is not what we are going through. Should I stay in this country? Should I relocate to a geography? Where should I settle down in life? So I think the world, because of the plethora of choices that they have, is going through, we have the choices, but we don't have clarity of what we want to execute. So even right now, there is a lot of stress that is going through, because even if you are earning enough in rupees, they tend to compare themselves with people who are earning in dollars and feeling, am I earning enough or not? Because now expensive luxury sedans have become affordable. Now there is always this comparison. Earlier you dreamt of your first car. Now it's not the first car. Or I'll put it this way. Upgradation of toys have become the new stress in the world. Do I have the latest phone? Do I have the next version of car? Am I living in a 3-bedroom house or a 4-bedroom house? Is my address downtown or it's slightly away from downtown? So there is an identity crisis that is going on right now. There is a lot of stress. People who feel settled in their identity are peaceful. The rest are going through a very stressful transition.
I was very fortunate to attend your first talk, your first program in Sydney on the 25th of September in Parramatta. And one expression which I'm still sort of struggling with is the walk away from the unacceptable. What is unacceptable?
See, the thing is, like I explained in the program, there are no user manuals to life. There are only triggers, and we need to personalize this entire thing. So the reason in the talk it was stacked in that order: accept the unchangeable, change the changeable, then came the remove yourself from the unacceptable, which means I made an honest attempt. I realize with my maturity there are factors beyond my control and I cannot change. I'm trying to accept and be peaceful. But I'm not able to accept because those things are not okay with me. So right now I'm channelizing my entire energy to change it. See if I can empower it and influence a change in it so that I will be peaceful. But when I have made a repeated cycle of accept and change and accept and change, and I'm oscillating between these two, and I realize it's neither coming under acceptance nor I'm able to change it, the only alternative I'm left with is I will have to move away from that place. I have to remove myself from the unacceptable. Whether that removing myself from the unacceptable is changing jobs or changing geography or moving into a new relationship, the idea is this: you either happily get along or you happily get away. There is no meaning to either miserably getting along or miserably getting away. If misery is fixed and only getting along or getting away is a variable, either way you're struggling in life. So I'm saying, whatever you tried, the byproduct of your choices is only misery. Then the only alternative you're left with is remove yourself from the unacceptable. At least you'll be able to happily get away. That is why I spoke about it.
That is a beautiful message. I loved also your points about obesity. We are living, especially in this country, more than 60% of children are now obese. Why is it such a big problem, do you think, globally?
In fact, that only thing that concerned me from the time I landed in Australia, everybody has been talking about how leisurely the life is, how we work only 38 hours, how we get breaks in schools, how our weekends are important for me. And it concerns me because if we keep explaining freedom to children without explaining responsibility to them. For example, this one thought has not left me from the time I landed here. Are we fighting for our rights without trying to be right? So I really wish we have first adult role models within family to show that exercise is a lifestyle for us and it's not a choice. If exercise becomes a lifestyle for parents, then they become role models for children to learn. If right from the beginning I've seen my parents pray, children take it up automatically. If right from the beginning I have seen my parents respect each other, then respecting relationship comes naturally to me. But if I've grown in an environment where I've seen my father and mother only abuse each other all the time, then I think it's also okay to abuse. So I think the first responsibility we have is as adults to be worthy role models to the next generation by showing how health is a lifestyle and not a choice. We have to embrace this. If we don't do this, I think we are going to struggle through the entire process.
Thank you. That's so true. Tell me about your retreats. I've just found out that there are 4 retreats a year that you organize in India. Can you tell us more about it?
We have become technological slaves. We live in a time of sensory overload. We wake up in the middle of the night also and we immediately reach out to our phone. So I wanted to show people how life will be if you, like how they use the word intermittent fasting right now, that's the buzzword that's going on. I feel how if you do technology fasting, there will be so much lesser noise in your head. So that is the first idea why a spiritual retreat was created. The second thing was that there is so much noise in the world outside which has become the noise in our head. We no more know what is our original inner voice anymore. So I take them to a retreat where we don't speak with each other. I do a lot of talking, unlike a Vipassana camp where even the teacher does not speak. I do all the talking. I explain the entire science of life. They don't do talking. For me, a very profound thing happened when I was 40. When I saw the first grey hair in my moustache, it affected me so much. And in that moment, I realized a small blemish outside concerns us so much. And there's so much inner blemish within us. Because it can be hidden from the world, it doesn't affect us. I felt the bottle has to be clean from inside, not just outside. So there are no mirrors in my spiritual retreat. So you don't see yourself for 8 days. So because you no more are judging yourself from your external looks for 8 days, you begin to look within to know yourself so much more better. So in that environment where you're completely cut out from all external stimuli, an internal search begins, and the entire retreat is designed in such a way that you're taken layer by layer deep within you for you to understand the quality of your thoughts, the quality of your feelings, and eventually lead into a state of peaceful silence. It's become literally like an annual pilgrimage for everybody. So people from across the world, those 8 days in their life is fixed. In fact, they live the remaining 357 days waiting for those 8 days to come. We call it as HDB, higher in maturity, deeper in spirituality, beyond in the materialistic realm. That's what the program is.
Is there a physical component of exercise in the program?
That's not the primary focus, but it is physically demanding because we use a lot of dynamic processes for people to see. One way of meditation is where you quieten yourself, you unload the mind and go into silence. We also do overloading the mind and then shutting it off. So there's a lot of dynamic processes. So we encourage people to come physically fit to the program. In the program, there is no focus on physical fitness, But we ask people to come physically fit so that they get the best out of the entire program.
That is amazing, so they can prepare
Yes.
ahead.
Yes.
And do you welcome people from Australia?
Yes, a lot of them come. A lot of them come. In fact, the 13 of them who received me in Sydney, all of them come every year to the spiritual retreat.
Is there an age limit?
16 and above.
That is amazing. And in your first impressions of Australia, apart from the responsibility, which you said is actually quite similar to democratic responsibility, what else did you notice that sort of either surprised you or fascinated you, or what else can you tell us?
The most beautiful thing that I saw is that people are not other people conscious. You're not all the time watching out on who is judging me, or you're not judged by your color, you're not judged by what you wear, you're not judged by what you eat or drink or this thing, which I felt it's truly such a heterogeneous culture that everybody feels in their own space. There's no sense of insecurity or intimidation. But I only seen Sydney, so I cannot this thing. But in whatever I have seen, the most beautiful thing is like how in my own home I would walk, not feeling my own shadow is following me. That's how I felt in Sydney from the time I have landed. I don't feel anybody is watching me. My hair is not a problem. My beard is not a problem. What I wear is not a problem. In what tone I speak is not a problem. And I think that's absolutely lovely.
That is fantastic. And how does your program look like in Australia? What's coming up after Sydney?
Today I'm addressing a set of chartered accountants on ethics and leadership. And this is this afternoon. And I have a program in Adelaide tomorrow. And the quintessence of all the scriptures comes down to 4 words: love, truth, consciousness, and happiness. So tomorrow in Adelaide, I'm speaking on how you can live your life centered on these 4 spiritual truths. And then I have a program in Melbourne on Sunday evening. And in Brisbane, I have a program on Tuesday evening. I've only given a caption, Life in 11 Words. Haven't yet decided. I'm an inspirational speaker. I don't pre-decide my talk. So when I go there, I'll take a decision what I want to speak on.
I love your interaction with the audience. From what I saw, you kind of feed from the energy from the audience and vice versa.
Absolutely.
How do you deal with challenging audiences as an international speaker?
Actually, Sydney, I would consider it as a very, very complete program. I face this cultural challenge everywhere. I believe that program should start on time and end on time. And I always have somebody in the audience who argue about it's not practical for you to expect everybody to be on time. This is a challenge that I face everywhere. The thing is, I start all my program on time and don't allow latecomers to come inside. Not as a disrespect to the latecomers, but this was my way of showing respect to people who come on time. And what happens is, my programs are very intense. It's a law of life. Only when the audience and the speaker are intense, transformation can happen. If there is lack of intensity either in the audience or in the speaker, only information exchange will happen. So if I do a comedy show, I think we can have people moving around. When the focus is transformation, so we need to focus on this. But for that, I was surprised. The audience laughed, clapped. They were very, very welcoming. I think within 1 minute, I felt so one with the audience. But I told my wife back in home, it's one of the most complete programs that I felt at the end of the program. I had a lovely audience in Sydney.
We are really hoping that you will be back and inspire future generations. Your message to the youth, I found to be very profound. You said that they should never forget that they could be the next leader of this country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, what we require is not how many followers we create. What we require is how many leaders we create. And I think part of parenting itself has to become reminding them of some of those qualities: sincerity, integrity, responsibility. And I think we need to prepare this as a system itself. We need to work on. The future of any generation does not come from the citizens of the country. The future of any generation comes from the leaders of the country. So we all have to work together on this. And I could see, in fact, the moment I asked the youngsters in the Sydney program, saying that I expect one of you, there was a girl who was sitting right in the front row by name Shrestha. She put her hand up and said, I'm going to be a leader. That's all is required. If we can empower enough of these children to think about leadership, we would have a very beautiful world.
And as a final question, what are the main qualities of a good leader?
The first and foremost is ironically selflessness. You have to believe that you're not here for your sake. The fundamental thought process of a leader has to be beyond me, mine, myself. It has to be on the larger good. If you don't have the larger good in mind, because see, it's easy to get actions right in the eyes of the world. That's called marketing. You have to get your intentions right. So we need selflessness. We need empowerment skills. See, end of the day, nobody makes it alone. If I have to succeed as a leader, I need to empower. I have to get people to put their hand up. Empowerment is very important. So you need to have exceptional empowering skills, which is not possible without being an effective communicator. It's not about just being good at language. You should know how to invoke emotions. An effective communicator should know how to invoke emotions. That is where empowerment happens. And you have to be relentless. See, there is patience, and leadership is a marriage which you cannot escape. There are no sprints available in leadership. There are only marathons to be run. We need long-term objectives. What we can achieve in 10 years' time. What we can achieve in 5 years' time. What we can achieve in 20 years' time. So if we are able to think long-term and hold on, the magical phrase in leadership is long enough. When Mahatma Gandhi worked long enough, when Nelson Mandela strived long enough, when Martin Luther King did it long enough, if a leader has the patience to be long enough, you will be an effective leader.
Thank you very much, Teacher Mahatria. And for everybody who wants to learn more, you can buy one of the beautiful books, and also there is a website, and the people can also find out about the spiritual retreats on this website.
Yes, they can. And we also do, it's a convenient time in Australia at 2:30. Every Sunday we have an online session which is free. We discuss life. Every Sunday, including coming Sunday from Melbourne, I'm going to be doing it. And we do an online session where people can ask questions on life. On my own, there are days I come and discuss about life. So every Sunday we have. And for Australia, it's a very convenient timing that it's, by Sydney time, it's 2:30 on Sunday afternoon.
Thank you very much, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of your stay in Australia.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nina.